Before we get started on the final part of this series, just a quick heads up. This is all for educational and informational purposes only. It is definitely not financial advice. You've always got to do your own research. All right, welcome to the grand finale of our DexFi Bonds series. We've covered a lot in parts 1 and 2. Now today, we're going to put all the pieces together to answer that big question. When it comes to your bond's value, which force actually wins? The fees you're earning or the impermanent loss you're risking? Let's dive in. So just as a quick recap, we've basically got two powerful opposing forces at play here. In part 1, we learned that bonds are like these little toll booths, constantly collecting trading fees, which pushes your value up. But then in part 2, we talked about that seesaw of impermanent loss. You know, that rebalancing act that can pull your value down when prices start to drift apart. So that brings us to the central question for today. You've got one force pushing up and another pulling down, so who actually wins? This is really the absolute core of understanding how a bond performs. So let's get into our first section, the tug-of-war. Honestly, the best way to picture what's happening inside every single bond is to just imagine a constant game of tug-of-war. On one side of that rope, you have trading fees. This is a relentless, steady pull, adding value to your bond 24/7. This team is strong, they're consistent. But on the other side, you've got impermanent loss. And that team pulls back and pulls back hard whenever the altcoin in the pair makes a big move away from ETH's price. So here is the most crucial takeaway. Your actual net return is just the final score of this battle. It's the total fees you earned minus the impermanent loss you experienced. That final number tells you exactly who won the tug-of-war. It's really that simple. Okay, so if that's the formula, it naturally leads to our next question. When does each side actually win? Let's break down the specific market conditions that give one team the edge over the other. Now, this slide lays out the game plan perfectly. The fees team wins and wins big when you've got high trading volume and low price divergence. That just means the altcoin and ETH are kind of moving together. When that happens, your bond ratio goes up. On the flip side, the loss team wins when that price divergence is really high and the trading fees just can't keep up. That's when you'll see the bond ratio fall. Which, of course, brings us to the question that I know a lot of you are probably thinking. If you've been watching the bonds lately, you've probably noticed that ratio has been going down. So, what's going on here? Let's just be completely transparent. As of right now, the bond ratio is sitting around 0.025 ETH. And yes, that reflects a period where the loss side of that tug-of-war has been winning. And here's exactly why that's happening. We've seen significant price divergence. A lot of the altcoins that are paired up in these bonds have had some major price drops, while ETH has stayed pretty strong. That creates the absolute perfect storm for impermanent loss to just pull that ratio down. But, and this is probably the most important thing to remember, impermanent loss is called impermanent for a reason. It can actually reverse if those altcoin prices bounce back. The fee accumulation, though, that's constant. It never stops. It's a one-way street, always adding value, day in and day out. And this all brings us to a much bigger idea, taking a long-term perspective. It is so crucial to understand these bonds were not designed for short-term snapshots. They were built to work across entire market cycles. You know, you can think of the market kind of like seasons. During an altcoin summer, a bull market, volume is sky high, prices are moving in lockstep, and the fees team just crushes it. But during an altcoin winter, like what we've seen recently, divergence is high and the loss team starts to gain some ground. The whole design is built around that third phase, that over a full cycle of these seasons, the constant, nonstop accumulation of fees will ultimately win the war. So the key here is that bonds are a long-term play. They are built for people who can ride out the stormy weather, allowing that powerful fee generation to just do its thing and compound over time with the goal of overcoming those temporary setbacks from impermanent loss. Okay, so that's the deal for someone holding a bond. But what does all of this mean for Plasm? You know, for Plasm holders and the protocol's real yield engine? Well, this is where the story gets really, really cool. So get this, the Plasm Treasury holds over 4,000 of these bonds. And right now, even with the ratio declining, those bonds are cranking out somewhere between $500 and $700 in trading fees every single day. And that real yield goes straight to the buy, burn, and backstop pools. Let's use an analogy to make this crystal clear. For the Plasm Treasury, think of that daily fee flow like a salary. It's consistent income that just keeps showing up, rain or shine. The bond ratio, on the other hand, is like the value of your stock portfolio. It's going to go up, it's going to go down with the market. And this illustrates the genius of the whole design. Plasm's real yield engine, its salary, it keeps running as long as people are trading. It does not care if the stock portfolio, the bond ratio, is going up or down on any given day. That engine just keeps on humming. All right, so as we wrap up this entire three-part series, let's nail down the 3 key lessons. We're going to boil everything we've learned down to the most important things you need to know to see the full picture. Okay, number 1 from part 1, the engine. Bonds are toll booths, and they collect fees around the clock. Number 2 from part 2, the risk. Impermanent loss is that counterforce, that seesaw that tips when prices move apart. And number 3 from today, the result. Your final return is always fees minus loss, and the whole system is designed for fees to win out over a full market cycle. And this brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway of this entire series. When you see that bond ratio declining, please don't see it as a failure of the system. It's not. It's a market indicator. It's a sign that altcoins have been underperforming ETH lately. That's it. It's the system working exactly as it's supposed to, reflecting the reality of the market. And the beautiful part of all of this is that when that market cycle turns and when altcoins start to recover, that ratio is designed to recover right along with them. And when it does, all of those fees that have been patiently stacking up day after day, week after week, they will finally get their moment to shine. Thank you so much for joining me for this 3-part explainer. I really hope you have a much clearer picture of how these bonds tick. Just remember, crypto investments carry significant risk, and that includes impermanent loss and even total loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results, so please always do your own research.